Hey there, Steve Gamache with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. And what we have this time is the Itto-Ryu Shidogami or White number 2 Gyuto 210mm knife. So this line of knives has a 3-layer construction. That center hard core cutting edge steel is what's known as Shidogami or White paper number 2 reactive high carbon steel. Heat treats around the 61-62 Rockwell for that core steel. And then they've got a stainless cladding that covers either side of that core steel and then wraps over the top. And that cladding is, I'm just actually looking here, it might, no, it's hard to tell. I think it covers the top. But this cladding has a kudauchi or blacksmith finish on it. And then you can see a fair amount of polish on the blade road as it goes down towards the edge, the grind towards the edge. These knives are very nicely made and definitely kind of punch above their price point. If you look at the reviews, you'll kind of see some consistent comments to that effect. The weight and dimensions are going to vary a bit from knife to knife, but it's a great line of knives. The weight is 175 grams or 6.2 ounces on this one. Edge length on this one is about 214 millimeters or 8.4 inches on the edge. Overall length was about 14.5 inches. Thickness is going to vary on these. This one was pretty thick coming out of the handle, and so the back of the blade here is about 4 millimeters, and then it comes down pretty quick off of that. So I got about 2 1/4 halfway down. These don't have a ton of distal taper. You can see that. So the tip's not like super skinny. That pretty much you'll get a little taper and then you hit the grind, which is not a super tall grind, and then you get, so there's your grind and there's where the tip is. So the tip's not like super skinny on these, so it's not going to fly through stuff like a super skinny laser, but it's got a little bit of meat behind it. The edge also gets pretty thin, but it widens out pretty quick. So these are good all-around performing knives. They tend to, the geometry tends to work quite well. You might get a little bit of wedging in certain types of things, but it's a really nice feel on the board, and these have a fair amount of stiffness and integrity to them, so it's got a lot of good, it just has a good kind of muscly feel to it. The blade height is about 48.2 on this one. A pretty thin neck, so we've got gobs of clearance here. And then the handle is an octagonal maple handle with a buffalo horn ferrule. There's a little bit of a jump there between the two materials, but that's somewhat common sometimes. Good tight handle install at the tang. Handle circumference is a little on the thin side at 72 millimeters or 2.85 inches where the two materials meet. Given the thickness of the tang and the handle size, I guess it was a requirement in this case with this handle, they have a pretty big gap there between the back of the blade, the choil, and the front of the handle. So there's a pretty big spot for your finger. You might find some variations depending on that particular knife and how far up they put the handle on. So this one, you got kind of a lot of space there. Balance point on here is right there for this knife. So for me, that's pretty close to a pinch grip. And these are quite comfortable for a pinch grip. These are 6 ounces or so, so they've got a little bit of muscle feel to them, as I said, so you can kind of feel like you had a knife in your hand. Let's get our beauty shot. Up close, we've got a very smooth finish to the cladding. Our camera catch up here. There's some, they look like chiseled kanji to me, so sometimes they're doing laser these days, but this feels like chiseled kanji on there, on the right side of the blade. As I said, the KU finish and the finish here is very smooth. There's not much texture to it. And then you can see they polished that grind part down to the edge pretty hard, so it's got a lot of polish to it. There's a cladding line there. It's just kind of hard to see, so it's really kind of hard to pick up. As you start using the blade, you'll kind of see where that occurs, but it's hard to even show on camera. Nice fit and finish. They've got some rounding and polishing underneath and the KU over the top of that, but they've got a real nice rounded sanded spine, and they've done a nice job on the choil as well. Very comfortable. Out of the box edge, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. These will definitely get sharper, but they had a pretty decent out of the box edge on them. And let's see, let's look at the cutting board profile. Here's our profile. Again, knives will vary just a little bit from sample to sample on the profile, but this is what you'll generally probably see. This has a nice flat spot towards the back, flows into kind of a stop there at the back, and you got a good chunk there for flat. You've got a gentle belly towards the tip. Tip's not that high, so I'll get in there before I start digging the tip in on this knife with the cutting board. So it'll rock pretty nicely, and definitely push-pull cut, some good chopping towards the back. So just a good, nice all-around usable profile on this. So real nice looking, nice performing, well-crafted set of knives, nice and straight, stiff blade, straight blade, and so on. So this is the Itto-Ryu Shidogami No. 2 Gyuto 210mm knife.